Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani. Welcome back to Beyond Wellness Radio. My good friend Dave Korsunsky is in the house. Dave, how are we doing today?
Fantastic, Doc. It's been far too long since we've connected, so happy to be back.
Excellent. Love it. So happy we're connected here too. So
Yep.
let's talk about it. I mean, you run the website headsuphealth.com. Heads Up Health,
Yes.
phenomenal site where you can track your data. Again, you're putting lots of new features in there where people can plug in or integrate some of their smart devices, Fitbit, some of their ketone or blood sugar readers, scales, blood pressure cuffs, integrate with lab companies, LabCourse coming up soon. You mentioned Quest. So great way if you're kind of like a biohacker or a health hacker and you want to put everything in one place. Awesome place to look at there. And also we have a new feature. We talked about the new features that are coming up. So we'll have an affiliate link here below. So if you're listening to this information and it resonates with you or you want to try plugging it in, we'll have an affiliate link down below that you can click to get access to some of this information, to get your account moving. And again, to start integrating some of the features that we're going to chat about today.
Great.
Okay, so off the bat, let's dig in. So one of the more important things that's coming here is we have some newer ketone readers on the market. One of those readers is called the Keto Mojo. Cool thing about it is keto strips are cheaper, which is great. It's going to measure ketones along with blood sugar, and it's also going to measure hemoglobin and hematocrit. Love it. I'm waiting for just that extra feature of insulin, and then we got like just a freaking lab in a little reader right in front of us. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Every time I see Dorian, the founder, I beat him up to say, "Hey, Dorian, can we get an insulin strip?" Because as you know, that would be a game-changing piece of information. There currently is no way to do that in a consumer test. But if you could start testing things like postprandial insulin just at home after different meals, it'd be awesome. But nonetheless, they've put a great product out there, and it's really made ketone testing affordable and accessible to people who perhaps couldn't have access to this before. So that's a great one. We're going to talk more about it as we go here.
And the reason why insulin is so important is because you have a lot of people that are insulin resistant where their blood sugar looks decent, let's say 90 or 95, right? But it's only decent because insulin is compensating and going so high. So insulin is shoveling out that blood sugar into the cell. So then the blood sugar looks lower because the insulin is basically the shovel. You got a lot more shovels shoveling that out. So it's different because if your blood sugar is here with high insulin, then you're developing insulin resistance, right? Because you have more shovels compensating for that. If we decrease and your blood sugar is good, that means you're insulin sensitive. And
Yep.
we need low insulin to increase ketones, right? Ketones and insulin are on this scale. So if people are like, hey, I'm like lower carb or my blood sugar is low, but my ketones are low, well, that's the missing variable is the insulin could be high. So keep that in mind. We have this little seesaw effect with insulin and ketones. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, we wrote a blog post exactly on that topic, and we talked about why fasting insulin is one of the most important tests your doctor probably isn't running, because you'll get a typical fasting glucose test with no indication of whether or not insulin is artificially inflated, keeping that number down. That's why it's important to test both at the same time. So yeah, I would agree. I think it's incredibly important. I'd love to see the day when we can start testing that at home. But right now, the only way to get an insulin test, whether it's fasting or postprandial or whatever, is at the lab. And we're going to talk about that a little later in this metabolic panel that you and I have cooked up here.
Absolutely. And we're going to do a screen share in just a few minutes. We're going to kind of just dial in a couple of key components here. So let's say you've kind of already transitioned from a paleo template approach, or maybe you're doing a keto paleo where you're focusing on nutrient dense, anti-inflammatory, toxin foods, right? But you're keeping the grains, the dairy, the legumes out and such, and you're doing higher quality fat, but you're trying a very lower carb version, 20 or 30 net grams. Big thing that we can work on integrating today is some of the heads up features, looking at that fasting, 1 hour, 2 hour, and 3 hour glucose tolerance, or we call it a functional glucose tolerance, meaning we're not going and drinking that 75 gram of glucose artificial sugar crap at the doctor's office. We're choosing our real meal, not a fake exaggerated meal, but a real meal. Then we can see how our blood sugar fluctuates over that 3 hour period. And you've integrated that in there. And why don't we go to the screen share on your side and you can kind of just walk us through how that looks. And just for everyone below here, if you're listening to this on podcast or the YouTube channel, click the affiliate code below we're going to have so you can get access to this information.
Yeah, I remember when you and I first started working together, Doc, and I was your patient, and you educated me on what the functional glucose tolerance test actually was versus the oral glucose tolerance. And the functional glucose tolerance being something you can do at home after any meal. And for those who aren't clear, the oral glucose tolerance is the formal test where you go to the doctor, drink the sugar, and you hang around and get the postprandial blood glucose test done. Not really that practical in reality, but the functional glucose
Correct.
tolerance you can test with anything. So I've got my screen shared. Can you see it here, Doc?
I can see it. You're up.
Yeah, so this is something we ended up calling, initially we called it the functional glucose tolerance test, but it was just a little too wordy to fit in. So it's really just a carb tolerance test. And actually, Rob Wolf talks about this in his book as well, where based on some research out of Israel, there was a study done following 800 different people, and they found that you could give two people the exact same carbohydrate source, whether it's sweet potato or bread or lentils, and they would have very different postprandial glucose responses. So the key takeaway was that it's different for everybody. And that maps back to the functional glucose tolerance, where you're actually having people test their favorite breakfast, test their favorite restaurant meals, or meals they're eating at home. So here's how this works. And you can see on my screen here, I've got the feature called the carb tolerance test. And you can just click the plus button here. You can test anything you want. So let's say you test your favorite breakfast of Denny's bacon and eggs. And all you do is just put a name in here, but this could be anything. It could be a muffin. It could be 50 grams of sweet potato. It could be anything that you're curious about. You say, I eat this food regularly. I want to understand how my body's postprandial glucose responses are going to be. So I've called this anything I want. And what I do is I test my blood sugar before I eat that food. So let's say that my preprandial, for example, was 85. And if this was a fasting reading, I could also tag it as such. And then what you do is you just test 1 hour, 2 hour, and 3 hours after the meal and update this info accordingly. You can also record any subjective symptoms, and this could help you identify, even though you may have a nice, healthy postprandial glucose response, there's also the ability to record subjective symptoms. Did I have an energy crash? Did I get brain fog? Did I feel hungry 30 minutes later or an hour later? Or did I have digestive issues? And then you can save that and then share it with a practitioner like yourself. So I'm going to enter my preprandial glucose reading here and then hit save. And you'll see this will create a new entry here. And then all I have to do is just update the 1 hour and the 2 hour and the 3 hour after I go. And just to give you an example of what that looks like when it's completed is here's one I did at In-N-Out Burger, because when I'm traveling, often you don't have access to all of the healthy low carb foods you do at home. So I go to In-N-Out, I'll get 2 lettuce wrap burgers, which they call it protein style. And I wanted to see, does just the protein burger with no bun have an effect on my glucose? And here were the results: 90, 106 at 1 hour, 89 at 2 hour, and then back to about 95 at the 3 hour mark. So maybe I'll kick it back to you, Doc, and you can share more about what you're looking for in the postprandial glucose curve as you have your patients test different meals and different foods.
Absolutely. So in general, we have this kind of fasting, ideally below 100 or 95. Again, we got to be careful in the morning, because in the morning, and that from when you wake up to 30 minutes later, your cortisol is increasing nearly 50 to 60% in that 30-minute period. And because of that healthy cortisol response, you can actually increase blood sugar in that big spike. That's like, you're making over 3/4 of your cortisol just in that 0 to 30-minute spike. So that spike can increase blood sugar. And you may think, hey, this is partly because of my diet, and it may or may not be. So just kind of keep a little asterisk next to that, and really look at your lunch and dinner ones, especially if you're seeing an anomaly in the morning. So we like that 0 below 100 or 95. We like our number 1 below 140. For extra credit, we like it below 120. All right, below 120, and then at 2 hours below 120 or close to 100, and at 3 definitely below 100. So kind of keep that as your as your kind of your baseline. I remember we went out to eat a few months back. We went to a steak restaurant. I think I tested mine 1 hour after a meal. My blood sugar was 70 or 75, right?
Yep.
So you can eat really well and you can choose foods that keep your blood sugar from spiking. And the whole benefit that is when your blood sugar is not spiking like that, you're not over secreting insulin. When you're not over secreting insulin, you're not going to develop insulin resistance and all of the effects that may have with ovarian cyst or cancer cells or inflammation or blood pressure. So all those things kind of benefit. So just kind of highlighting on your side here is we can plug those in and we can map them and we can put the notes in there regarding what meals. So then you can say, hey, protein style In-N-Out, the steakhouse where I did this, or the cheat day where I ate this dessert or this crappy food, right? And then you can kind of map it out and that can provide a lot of value and insight of how your body responds. And also there's the immunological qualities that Rob Wolf has talked about where it may not be a carbohydrate thing. It may be a cortisol response to a food allergen that's getting your immune system wound up. That cortisol could then increase the blood sugar as a side effect.
Yeah, and we've had several users on Heads Up Health test different foods that they thought were metabolically safe for their body, and the results were absolutely shocking. Where someone will test certain foods that they've been eating, and they'll share some results with me anecdotally, and they'll say, "Wow, I thought this food was safe," and then they tested, and the blood sugar is still skyrocketing at the 3-hour mark. It hasn't started to come down at all. It's a runaway train, and people actually had no idea. So this can be incredibly helpful just to make sure that there's nothing really sabotaging your efforts. And unfortunately, you do need to test these foods yourself. You can't just rely on things like the guidance from the Diabetes Association or from the glycemic load tables. There's so much individual variance that this is why postprandial blood sugar testing, even if you're not diagnosed as having a metabolic disease, even just for your own personal health, it is helpful to test different foods and just make sure that you are having a healthy postprandial response. So that's the new feature we've built into Heads Up Health. You can test anything you want and just make sure it's metabolically safe. All of these readings will be stored. And actually, you can probably add more here, Doc, but after you've been on a clean paleo eating template for several months, you may actually be able to tolerate foods that you couldn't tolerate before. As your body composition improves, your gut microbiome improves. So maybe you can comment on how something that might not be metabolically safe now could potentially be reintroduced at some future point after you've made some progress on your health journey.
Absolutely. So of course, if you're not breaking that food down, not digesting it well, that can create a stressor. It could just be a food allergen, kind of like gluten. That could be a stressor, or dairy or casein, right? And again, people in the keto community, keto paleo community, they're notorious for maybe doing excess casein because, hey, you can do dairy or cheese or all these things. Yep. And you got to be careful with the casein from a ketogenic perspective, because that could get you. Yep. And then, of course, if they have an infection or SIBO or a parasite or an H. pylori, something that's driving gastrointestinal permeability, or the slang word leaky gut, that can get your immune system wound up too. And of course, if you have, low levels of probiotics in your gut, that can create issues, because probiotics help with the immune function. They help produce B vitamins and vitamin K. And of course, good bacteria eats poop and poops nutrition, right? Bad bacteria eats nutrition and poops poop. Essentially, good bacteria provides more nourishment. Bad bacteria provides more toxins and stress in your gut.
Yep, exactly. So, and what about body composition as well? Have you seen, for example, as you increase your lean muscle mass, for example, does that also have an impact on postprandial response? Because we talk to a lot of guys who are bodybuilders, and they can go out and eat a huge quantity of food, and postprandial responses are very low. So I know you mentioned gut microbiome, but what about body composition, muscle mass in response to postprandial glucose?
Oh, absolutely. So number one, if you have more muscle mass, you're going to have more GLUT4 receptors to soak in that glucose. So think about it as your kid makes a mess on the table. You go with a tiny little sponge to clean it up. That's like a tiny bit of muscle is a tiny bit of sponge.
Yep.
Versus a huge, like one of those big sponges you use to kind of wash your car. Like if you have more muscle, it's equivalent to a big sponge like that. Lots of GLUT4 receptors. You can soak up that glucose, just like you can go to your table with your kid's mess and you can soak it all up, and you didn't even bat an eye, right? So muscle does that. Also, muscle, if you have more muscle, that means you'll automatically have less fat, right? So
Yep.
fat's an exocrine gland within itself, so it will produce estrogen as well.
Yep.
And what pretty much drives the fat is going to be insulin. So excess insulin drives more fat drives more estrogen. So it's kind of like this vicious cycle. More estrogen can make you more insulin resistant, especially if you're a guy. And then more insulin increases aromatase, which will take your testosterone and bring it downstream to estrogen. So you become more of a female hormonally. And with women, it's actually the opposite. They get more insulin, more insulin will drive the 1720 lyase enzyme, which then increases androgens, and then they get ovarian cysts, and then they get more, hair growth and acne. So it's this vicious cycle where Mother Nature kind of swaps the roles there.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people who are doing everything right in terms of the macronutrient profiles. They're eating low carb. They've got things dialed in there, but little to no exercise. And yes, you will lose fat to a certain extent. Body composition will improve, but it's also critically important to be building muscle mass, lifting heavy things, and sweating. Those are two of the most important ingredients in my own regimen, making sure I'm building up lots of muscle mass in the quads, in the back, in the large muscle groups. And I think that's something that, at least in my experience, people I don't think appreciate as much as they start down this path. They think that diet alone is going to handle it, but lifting heavy, even if you're just starting out, starting to learn some of the functional movements that build a lot of core body strength and really hit the big muscle groups. I think that's perhaps the next level to get to once you have a solid foundation with the diet. Would you agree?
100%. I'd also say make sure you're getting your 10,000+ steps. Yesterday, I got
Yep.
14,000 steps. That's helpful because the steps really allow you to start basically cleaning out some of that. So if there's a little bit of extra carbohydrate in there, you can clean some of it out because you're constantly moving, and
Yep.
those extra steps really help. And then of course, if you're, I don't have a ton of time, so I'll just jump in and do a couple of kettlebell swings to failure, some push-ups to failure. And that can
Yep.
help because the push-ups, right? If I have a push-up bar, so I can go really deep. So I got a full range of motion push-up all the way down, all the way
Yep.
up. I can get the upper body going. I'll do my TRX rows to get the posterior side.
Nice.
And then some kettlebell swings as well. And then if you don't have a lot of time, throw a Tabata in there because that high intensity gets the growth hormone. And growth hormone is really going to be stimulating a lot of that muscle tissue.
Yeah, I definitely have home gym envy, Doc. I've been over to your place and I've seen your setup. It's pretty nice. So definitely would love to have something similar someday in the home.
And if you're on a budget, really simple, TRX that hangs over a door.
Yep.
Get the adjustable kettlebells on Amazon and get a
Yep.
good push-up bar. And push-up bar is optional, but I just like it because you can just get really deep. And because I would go so deep, I'd bang my head against the floor. So
Yeah.
I can go really deep, full range of motion, and not have to, make out with the floor, so to speak. So that's a great option for you. Any
Those are
questions on
great.
that?
No, those are great. I'd love to maybe see if we can find some of the recommended products on Amazon, the adjustable kettlebells, the TRX stuff, and just actually maybe include that here in the notes so people
will.
know which ones you've tested and they can just go out and get that and try it. So I think that would be, that'd be cool.
We'll get that in the show notes for sure. Also, let's just we kind of showed some of the functional glucose tolerance stuff, but
Yep.
you just gave us a cursory overview. Just give us a quick walkthrough through Heads Up. So someone they're going to click on the link below, they're going to get to the site, but then what do they do? How does it work? Give us that little roundup there.
Yeah, this is my personal data. So let me just refresh the screen here because some of the information didn't actually come in on the last load. And as you share a screen, that's what I wanted. So the first thing we'll ask you as a new user is which devices and apps you're using to measure your health. And so at least everyone who signs up has at least one of these devices: a Withings scale, an iHealth wireless blood pressure monitor or glucometer, a Fitbit, MyFitnessPal for tracking the macros, Apple Health. These are going to be able to pull in things like heart rate and blood sugar, sleep, macronutrient profile. So all of that will flow in. So you can connect as many of these sources as you want. And then you'll see we're also starting to build some of the more specialized sources as well. The ones I showed first were more of the commercial grade stuff, but you can also see we're starting to integrate devices like the Oura Ring and the Level breath acetone analyzer and things like Elite HRV. The other HRV monitors are coming in. So we're also working on the Dexcom CGM device. So We want to make it easy for people to build their own custom dashboard because everyone's tracking different metrics. So this is all completely customizable. So that's step one. And then you're allowed to build your own custom dashboard. So I've got the carb tolerance test data here, but if that's not something I'm working on, I can just actually hide it. And you can see my top 3 metrics are glucose, ketones, and then the glucose ketone index, which is just a ratio of these two numbers. A lot of our cancer patients and people with serious metabolic dysfunction are tracking the index of the two numbers. And then you can see I've got my weight and body fat readings. Those can come from a Withings scale. They can be entered manually. This here is my heart rate variability, which actually comes in from the Oura ring. And so that's on here as well. Same with sleep. So that ring gives me a good sleep and HRV report. So this is all completely customizable. Breath ketones, resting heart rate. And then really what people are trying to figure out is how is this affecting my clinical markers? Are my lifestyle changes lowering my inflammation or not? And the only way to see that is to put the clinical markers in the same system as the lifestyle markers. And typically the doctor has this clinical data. So it's very difficult to compare lifestyle changes to clinical markers. And that's what we wanted to solve here and make it available for everybody. So I could just jump down and look at things like my inflammation markers and say, okay, is CRP coming down as I go on a clean paleo template? And we can actually link directly to your medical facility and pull this data out. So all you do is click the Connect Data button. And let's say that you're sending patients to Quest Diagnostics. They would be able to just link their Quest account to Heads Up, and all of that information would flow in. Or if they're using a more traditional health system and billing their insurance, you can connect Stanford, you can connect UCLA, you can connect the Cleveland Clinic. There's over 10,000 medical facilities in here. And then what we'll do is we'll take all of that data, clean it up, and organize it from oldest to newest so people can actually have the full picture of their health. And what we're seeing is patients can look back into their history 5, 10, 15 years into the past, maybe even decades before they've even started working with their current doctor, and see these patterns emerging years before the disease was diagnosed. And the reason you can't do that today is because every time you change doctors, your health record gets fragmented. But when we put it all together for people, then you can start to see, wow, actually that trend was visible 10 years before I even got the diagnosis.
Right.
But nobody noticed because I moved and my records got fragmented and my doctor can only see back 3 years, but I can see back 15 years. And that's where this has the potential to, I think, really help people have actually more power and more information on their health. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes into this system, Doc, but it's really meant for patients. And then most importantly, all I have to do here is go to Care Team Access and give you access. And you can come in and review all of this data whenever you want. And then if I don't want you to have access anymore, I would just disable that access.
And if you're listening to this on iTunes or kind of an audio version, we'll put a link down below for the YouTube video version as well. And if you're trying to figure out like how to find us, we'll put the link, but justinhealth.com/YouTube, YOUTUBE, and subscribe there. That way you can see the video as well. And then you can also listen to the audio.
Yeah, so I just killed the screen share, but that's a quick walkthrough. I wanted to show people the functional glucose tolerance test because it just allows everybody to test their favorite foods, make sure that they are metabolically safe. Even things you thought might be safe may not be. So it's easy to just test and be 100% sure. And then obviously you can integrate all the other information. So that's a little bit about one of the most recent features we just finished up. And actually we have a debt of gratitude to Dr. J on that one because he was the one who told me about the functional glucose tolerance test. So we took your vision, Doc, and implemented it into our software program.
Love it. That's phenomenal, man. Very cool. I'm also going to be doing a live right now blood sugar test on myself, kind of see where I'm at and put it out live on air.
Well, I can't let you go solo there, Doc. So I'm going to have to bust out my Keto Mojo here, and we'll have
87. 87, baby.
87. That's respectable.
And just so you know, that's an hour and a half, 2 hours after having 3 eggs cooked in ghee with sea salt and then some butter coffee with MCT.
All right. Well, let's see what I got here. So you mentioned the Mojo. Here it is. 99-cent ketone strips. I'm not going to do the ketone test right now. I'll just do a glucose strip. This is about, I don't know, half an hour after I had breakfast, which was really just chicken breast today. I'm traveling, so I don't have access to all my food. And clocked in at 82, respectable
Perfect.
82. That's right where I want to be. So yeah, I'm dialed in.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, my ketones are probably around 0.6 millimole. Typically, it's where they're at. If I eat like an 80+% fat breakfast, I typically get my protein in the morning from collagen. I did some good quality pasture fed eggs, but that's important. And let's just kind of hit a couple of the other blood sugar markers that we can do. So I like the functional glucose tolerance one because it's specific to the meals.
Yep.
Right. Where if you do kind of a blood test or you go to LabCorp, it may be helpful, but it's kind of like a fixed thing and it's not something that someone can do all the time. So we can do fasting insulin, which is really nice. And if you're more insulin resistant, that's great because your blood sugar may look okay, but it's nice to see the insulin coming down. And that's even better because that tells us that we're reversing insulin resistance. We can do fructosamine. So fasting insulin, ideally below 5 is the sweet spot.
Yep. So let me jump in on fasting insulin.
Yeah,
because
sure.
I think a lot of people, probably their doctor might not run it for them because there's not a diagnostic code. My doctor wouldn't run it for me. And it's extremely important, as you said, to see glucose and insulin to make sure that one is not overcompensating for the other. And so that's sometimes a test that a patient will have to order on their own. And whether they get it from you or whether they go order it themselves online, maybe you can just comment on that. My doctor won't run that specific test for me. And how could somebody do that themselves if their doctor won't run it?
Yeah. So, of course, you want to reach out to a functional medicine doc like myself. There are others out there because in the realm of functional medicine, we're not necessarily treating disease. We're supporting underlying systems that may not be working optimally. We're fixing diet and lifestyle, and we're trying to biohack and kind of maximize optimal performance. So it's a different mindset. And if you're in the insurance model, things tend to be all disease-based. You need an ICD-10 code, CPT attached to it. And it's just, if you're trying to utilize your insurance for this type of healthcare, it's typically not going to work.
Yep. And so what I did just for myself and my family is we just went on to one of the websites where you can order your own tests. There's a bunch out there, and just ordered our own fasting glucose, our own fasting insulin, $70, and just got it done and made sure all of our numbers were in range. So at least in the United States, this is not available internationally, but within the United States, we do have direct to consumer lab testing. If you're concerned and you want to know the numbers and your doc won't run it, do it yourself and track it in Heads Up Health.
100%. And again, a lot of people, they may be listening and concerned about, cholesterol with eating this much fat and this much good quality protein. Again, I just got approved for the highest life insurance policy you can get from a grade wise of health. And my lipids came back 180, 185 for total cholesterol. HDL was in the mid 60s. Trigs was in the 50, 60 range. So again, nearly perfect on everything. That's why I got the highest rating that you can get for life insurance. But just to show you, you're concerned about thinking about eating these foods and it jacking up your cholesterol. Typically not. The biggest thing that will jack it up will be insulin. Insulin will upregulate the enzyme that makes more cholesterol, the hemamethylglutarate CoA reductase enzyme.
Yep. So yeah, that's great. And you were just actually also, we were talking about a panel we're going to put together, which is going to be fasting glucose, fasting insulin, A1C, and fructosamine. So some people may not be familiar with fructosamine and A1C. So maybe comment on those, and then we'll put the panel together on the website. People can just go do it themselves, Quest or LabCorp, and we'll put the functional ranges in the show notes because the conventional ranges are misleading sometimes. So what do you think about those numbers in general?
Yeah. So fructosamine typically is a 10 to 14 day window. So in the lower 200s is going to be great.
Yep.
A1C in the lower fives. Lower fives is going to be great. Of course, glucose, it depends upon the timing, but fasting, below 100, below 95 is great. We kind of showed it in the 80s, which is excellent. Insulin below 5, below 6 is really good from a fasting insulin. Closer to 2 or 3 is fine, is great as well. And again, if we go really low on the insulin, we have a lot of fatigue issues. We do need insulin to help convert thyroid hormone. So we could be driving insulin too low, which could be creating some other metabolic issues. So keep that in the back of your head. If you're keto, paleo, and you're still having some symptoms, we may need to actually raise the insulin a bit, especially if your body comp's already pretty good. So keep that in the back of the head. That could be a little something we have to tweak down the road.
And that's actually something you helped me with last time I was in Austin, where I had
Yeah.
been extremely low carb for a really long time. Potentially, it was even keeping insulin too low. And I was seeing some elevated cortisol responses and just having some post exercise insomnia type issues. And I was able to just dial it back a little bit and over time quickly correct those. So that was one of the things I learned just from my own personal experience, was to cycle out every once in a while and dial back up the carbs, maybe from below 25 to 50 or something around there. I know you target 100, you've mentioned before. So I think variance is good, basically. I know I personally may have stayed low carb too long. I didn't need to be. I was actually, my body composition was good. But that's a good point, is actually being too low can also have some downstream effects on the insulin side as well, correct?
100%. And again, for me, I always default to going low because it's easier to start low, kind of
Absolutely.
stabilize, and then move up. Because if you're kind
Yep.
of in the middle, then it's like, which way do you got to go? There's more variables that you have to move through. But if you start lower, then you just got to move one direction.
Yep.
And, then you're okay. And then if you hit a point, you got, so to speak, some you have a direction that you just got to go the opposite to get back to where you were in case you start having a negative reaction.
Yep. Cool. Okay.
Perfect. So we talked about those couple of markers there. I think that's perfect. We hit those things. Also, let's chat about the HRV a bit. So I see HRV, or heart rate variability, which is the unevenness between the heart. The heartbeat, each second is not a consistent beat. There's some level of unevenness, which basically is a parasympathetic response. So the more the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, that's a great sign of being able to heal, anabolic hormones, being able to recover, build back up, recycle neurotransmitters, build muscle. So that's really good. So we have some devices that we can utilize. I mean, you can do the M-Wave device by HeartMath. I like just the Fitbit, making sure sleep looks pretty good. You can check in with the Oura Ring. So let's dial in with some of the things that you use to help improve heart rate variability.
Yeah, that sounds good, Doc. Give me 1 second here. Can you hear
Sure.
me okay?
Yep, you sound great.
All right. Yeah, so we're starting to see a lot of individuals who are starting to look at heart rate variability. I think there's still a lot of people who aren't quite sure what it is. They're starting to hear that term HRV, but might not know exactly what it is. I've only recently started introducing it into my regimen. Initially, I started by very simple, just purchasing a heart rate monitor, a polar heart rate monitor that you can get on Amazon for $30, and it's a chest strap. So in the morning, you would put it on, and you would fire up an HRV app. And in my case, I was starting with Elite HRV. There's a number of them out there. You can pick one that you like, and it will just ask you to sit still for 2 or 3 minutes in the morning, and it will start doing what's called a readiness score. And it will start measuring that variability, the time between each heartbeat, and looking at the variance. And then it will be able to give you a measurement of your level of recovery, how well recovered your body is on a given day. And it just can help you inform how hard you should push yourself on your training. So some of the popular apps out there that I've come across are Elite HRV, BioForce, and the one I'm using now is actually the Oura Ring, which is here. And this one actually will measure a number of different metrics. It will measure HRV, body temperature, sleep cycle analysis, and give you a readiness score based on all of that information. But for those who are not familiar with it, HRV is an excellent measurement to start assessing your level of personal stress, sympathetic versus parasympathetic, your level of recovery from physical training on a given day. And it can be a very helpful metric to understand just the level of stress in the body that can have implications for inflammation. It can have implications for your blood sugar levels. So for those who aren't familiar with it, starting to look into doing some basic HRV measurement, I think, is increasingly becoming a very popular metric that we're seeing requests for from our users.
Love it. Excellent.
How about you, Doc?
Would you describe? Say it again.
Are you testing? Have you tested HRV? Have you used any products there? Do you have your patients measure it at all?
I don't do a lot of testing with it. I haven't found something that I've been in streamline with, because there's so many things out there. So like the bigger things for me are like functional glucose testing. I like a Fitbit. If people aren't going to be going to the gym, making sure they're getting enough steps. There's a cool little one that's out that I'm liking, because I see a lot of people with poor posture. It goes on your spine.
Yep.
And then there's an app, and then it tells you how straight your spine is. So
Yeah.
basically, you put it on for optimal posture. And then if you start moving forward, there's a screen and an alert, and it shows you where your posture is. So it's instantaneous biofeedback for your posture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's called, I forget the name of it, Lumobac or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm liking that to a certain degree, because if people sit all day, I think it provides a lot of awareness that, hey, your posture's pretty bad. Maybe get a stand desk. I stand 5-6 hours a day, and I have a walking treadmill that I slide under my desk, and then I walk about 5 to 10 miles a day while I'm seeing patients. That's, I think, helpful. So I don't go crazy on that a ton, but I think it's something that I will look more into. I wish that Fitbit would integrate and have a heart rate variability aspect to it. I think some of the more expensive ones do, but I like the flex for the Fitbit. It's just a little more durable.
So this is something that I think would be helpful to a lot of the users on our system who are managing autoimmune disorders. They are managing metabolic diseases. They are managing cancer, for example. And if HRV is a proxy measurement for stress and perhaps underlying cortisol and elevated sympathetic nervous system response, maybe it's not specifically to HRV, but can you share how things like stress can affect autoimmune, specifically gut disorders and other autoimmune diseases, and how measuring and lowering stress can improve symptoms and associated markers?
So of course we have stress is in a couple of different areas, right? We have, like, when people think of stress, it's typically emotional stress, right?
Yep.
It's work, families, relationship, finance. Like, that's one element to, emotional stress. Also, things are like blood sugar, having your blood sugar swing up and down because you're eating too much carbohydrate or you're skipping meals and you're not getting enough nutrition and B vitamins and minerals at the meals because you're burning that stuff up the more stressed you are, right?
Got it.
Think of, you drive in a car, you gas it on the highway, you're going fast, you're making fast turns. Well, you go through gasoline at a higher rate. Well, the same thing happens with people when they are skipping meals, right? And they're under a lot of stress. They don't have the gasoline in the tank. The difference is our body just starts shifting into catabolic physiology where it starts breaking down other tissue. The difference in a car is, once you're on empty, right? That Seinfeld episode, how low can you go? Well, eventually your car just stops. The difference is, if a car was equal to our physiology, it would start metabolizing the bumper, or would start metabolizing the internal gas, the internal oil and fluids and such, right? The car is not quite like us. Once it's out of fuel, it stops. Yep. We don't stop. We break down other tissues and hormones and neurotransmitters, and that creates disease because we're getting chronically inflamed. So cortisol is going to break down, of course, more neurotransmitters. It's going to break down gut tissue, which is going to create more leaky gut and create more immune stress. The more immune stress there is, the immune system sucks up a lot of resources and a lot of energy. And of course, when the gut's impaired and the gut's inflamed, we're not going to be able to absorb a lot of those nutrients. So let's say you start shifting your diet back to a paleo template or an autoimmune template, and you're not getting better. Well, that's probably why, is your sympathetic nervous system is so turned on. We have to work on that. We need to support the gut integrity. And there's probably some infections that have come because your immune system has been shut off. So basically you left your door, unlocked, and now you got 5 homeless people sleeping in your house when you get home, right? That's the equivalent of, these parasites. You got to come clean them up, right? You got to go do all the stuff you need to do in the functional medicine program to get them all dialed back in.
Yeah, so my takeaway from that is heart rate variability is actually a way that people can start to quantify stress. Because
it's another way to monitor it, right? Like, heart rate variability is not tell me what to do, but it tells me that what I'm doing is actually working.
That's exactly right. So if someone is suspecting that they're doing everything right, they've got an autoimmune condition, they've got some other condition going on, they know that they have some stress in their life that's probably exacerbating things. Starting to get some HRV measurement can actually give you some hard data, because otherwise stress is just this nebulous thing. Yeah, I'm stressed out. It may be affecting my markers, my symptoms. I don't really know how to quantify it. And I think that's where learning HRV can become extremely helpful, especially getting that morning HRV readiness score, where it just says you got a great sleep, your HRV numbers look good, you can push yourself today. Or it can say your HRV numbers are terrible. Take today, focus on rest and recovery. And it actually gives you a number, a quantifiable, accurate number that can be used to start to calibrate lifestyle, actually understand how stressed your system is, and then make adjustments and have some data to work with. Instead of this nebulous "I'm stressed" term, the HRV can give you real numbers to work with. And there's some great tools out there. The Aura Ring is one. The Elite HRV Readiness Score is another. Not difficult to measure, and that can help you start to move the needle in terms of stress response. So I guess that's my takeaway from why I recommend HRV, why I test it personally.
And what's your favorite device again?
Well, right now I'm using the Aura Ring. It's a pricey device. That's the thing. But it incorporates a lot of different things into the stress response score. It includes a lot of data from your previous night's sleep, deep light REM, bedtime, wake time, resting heart rate, things of that nature. So that's the device I'm using. I also have a polar heart rate chest strap, which I bought on Amazon. I think it was $29. And the Elite HRV app is free. So that's another one. And I know that there's other HRV apps out there. Pick one you like, maybe test a couple, start getting some basic HRV measurements, and then it can be just another helpful data point to help you try to assess and measure and improve metrics associated with stress, elevated sympathetic nervous system. Poor sleep quality could also contribute to poor HRV numbers. So those are the products I currently am familiar with.
Love it. Excellent. We'll have to get them to sponsor the show here. Aura Ring. Phenomenal. All right, Dave. Well, hey, phenomenal show. So we're going to put links here, kind of a link to get access to all this material here from you guys, get people over there. We'll put some of the material and things we talked about in the show notes section underneath. So if you're listening to iTunes or YouTube, we'll be able to get you access to some of those information there and some of those tools. Anything else you want to share that you think is really important before we wrap it up?
No, I think it's always good to be on here, and just my whole thing is data-driven health and having access to your numbers and learning how to figure out what works for you. And it's also great to speak with you and get the clinical perspective on how to interpret these numbers as well. So it was just great to be back. We've always got a lot of stuff we can talk about. We could probably go on forever, but I think we covered some good information here. So it was fun as always, Doc. I'll be seeing you at Paleo FX not too far from now. Always a fun time. So I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to have some fun. And yeah, otherwise it's just great to be on the show.
Love it. Great to be here too. And also, if you're listening to this, sharing is caring. Give us a share and give us a thumbs up. We appreciate it. Spread the word. Again, it really fires me up when I see more people getting healthier. So make sure you give that a share. Dave, thanks a lot. Great having you here today. You take care.
Thanks, Doc. Yeah, great.